Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the Black Eye Podcast, and I am your host, Michelle. This is probably the first real recording of 2025, suspect. Uh, I've been going through some stuff with YouTube and everything, and I will probably do a live talking about that. But today we are going to focus on what the states are doing with no fault divorce. You may have heard through Project 2025 that the right or the conservatives are actually making moves to, what is it, prohibit no fault divorce or to force people into signing documents of, what is it? I forgot what the word is. Uh, what is it? When the church is in a Well, anyways, they're making you sign documents to say that the marriage is going to be forever and that you're not allowed to get a no fault divorce. Some states, red states, are doing this. They're actively trying to minimize or eliminate no fault divorce. So today I'm going to share some video with you and we're going to talk about some of the states in which they're trying to actually take away women's autonomy. Because as you know, 69% of women are the initiators of divorce, always have been since what, 1700 and something, 1800 and something, when women got divorced, sometimes you have to. And now that, these little lonely men stories are out here and they want to underhandedly, very kind of weirdly blame women for why men are the way they are. Uh, Now they want to call themselves bringing it back to the family. When really what it is it's about forcing women to remain in an unhappy situation. And not only just forcing women to remain in an unhappy situation, but to give men control. That's all it's about. Because the powers that be feel that women have too much say in their own lives. We have too much autonomy. We're thinking too much. We're getting education when we should be home taking care of the children. I did a video uh last year and it was about how the labor laws were based in misogyny. And one of the women who is cited on the left as being one of these great liberator for workers, well, her belief, her standard core belief was that women, she resented electricity because electricity enabled women to go to work when women should be reading to their children by firelight. I kid you not. Go watch the video. And this is the same sentiment. That was 100 years ago, by the way. That is the same sentiment that these far right people are, expressing today. They want to roll back the time when women had no rights, had no autonomy, and were forced to remain in marriages due to financial difficulty or situations. So, without further ado, I'm going to play this video for you. Uh, it's going to give you a nice overview uh, about what no fault divorce is, it's what its intended was, etc. And then we're going to discuss a couple of articles regarding some states, because red states do red state things, um, regarding no fault divorce and how it could possibly affect you. So let's get on with this. It's going to be a commercial because it's PBS. So brace for that. I apologize ahead of time. Everybody's got to have a commercial.
These states who want to end their marriage can get what's called a no fault divorce. Neither side has to prove that the other did something wrong, like committing adultery, abandoning their spouse, or treating them cruelly. But some Republican lawmakers in a handful of red states want to get rid of it. They say it makes divorce too easy and they say it's unfair to men since it's estimated that 69% of divorces in the United States are initiated by women. Joanna Grossman teaches family law at Southern Methodist University Dedman School of Law. So, Joanna, what's the history of no fault divorce? Where did it come from and why did it come into being?
So California was the first state to adopt no fault in 1969 after about 200 years of every state using fault-based divorce. And it came about because California studied it and found something that probably most people in the field already knew, which is that the system didn't work, that fault-based divorces were often involved perjury and fabrication, that people were fleeing their jurisdictions to get divorced, and that it did very little to sort out between good marriages and bad marriages.
And what's been the result? What's changed because of it?
So they started a revolution, and within 15 years, every single state had either switched completely to a no fault system or added at least one no fault ground. We saw some early effects, one of which was that the system of divorce became less troubled. There were fewer cases of obvious perjury and fabrication. And the female suicide rate.
I want to stop there because fabrications in marriages meant that they would simply lie about catching a spouse in adultery. So they would hire a detective, go out there, get a, you know, say that they caught up the spouse in adultery when simply they were just unhappy in their marriages and they just wanted to part. And so there was a lot of fabrication. I think one of the more famous fabrications was what's her name? Oh God, she was married to King Edward or Prince Edward. What's her name again? Oh, I see her face and I can't call her name. Anyways, she and her husband fabricated, even though she was having an affair, he refused to blame her for that. So he took the blame and they had to set up this whole story about, he was caught in adultery and that's why she had to get a divorce. That name is going to come to me, but I just want to put that out there because a lot of times people don't understand what the fabrication would be. And the fabrication would be that they would lie. They just were unhappy in their marriage.
Went down dramatically. The female homicide rate. Those were somewhat unexpected results, but very, very clear impacts of the change.
Now, among the critics of no fault divorce is J.D. Vance, who's Mr. Trump's new running mate. Now, here's what he's had to say about this in 2021, and this video is from Vice News.
This is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy, and so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term.
Shift spouses like they change underwear. What do you say to that?
I mean, it's a pretty odd.
I have to stop in here and say this because this is, ridiculous. It is all about really controlling women. Men have done this all the time. Men have switched spouses. They totally and completely abandoned the home and left the women high and dry with, my God, a gaggle of kids and a patriarchy which didn't allow the woman to work. And so now that women say that, oh, you know what? I'm not happy in this relationship. I'm not feeling fulfilled. You know, life is too short for mediocre to less quality sex. I mean, who wants to spend their lives like that? And it was all right when men felt this way. Oh, I don't want to spend life with her. Look at her. She's fat. Well, now women have a say. We have a say in how we want to spend the rest of our lives. And now it's a problem. Oh, look at them. They're changing partners like they're changing their underwear. Like that hasn't been happening the entire time. It's this false reality that everybody seems to be living in. And by the way, I have to talk because I don't know if PBS has a copyright, so I don't want to get struck. Oh, here I go.
Comparison, since of course most people have at most 2 or 3 spouses in a lifetime, and hopefully changing their underwear a little more often than that.
I hope so
But I think it
too.
really misses what no fault divorce is. It did make it easier to get divorced, but for the most part people were getting divorced anyway. It's just they were jumping through hoops to do it. And what
And I just want to interject here. Poor people weren't even getting married because they couldn't afford to divorce. You know, poor people didn't get married. I know everybody wants to tell you that that's a fact, but the truth of the matter is there was a thing called common law marriage that if you lived with somebody over a period of time, it was considered marriage. But they couldn't afford, most poor people couldn't afford to go downtown, pay a justice of the peace or whomever and get a formal marriage. That was usually for people middle class and up. Okay. Poor people didn't have anything to bequeath to their children. They mostly farmed them out to work and contribute to the home so that everybody could eat. But I just wanted to interject that thing.
we have found is that no fault is a better fit for our society's ideas about marriage. People actually want to get divorced because they think so highly of marriage. And if the marriage is disappointing, they want to be able to get out and often go on to a new marriage. So I think it's just sort of missing the point about the relationship between divorce law and people's happiness or even the stability of marriage.
What do you make of the argument that no fault divorce deprives men of due process because most divorces are initiated by women?
So divorces have always been initiated more often by women, going back all the way to the very first divorce laws in after the revolution. And that's by and large because marriage is an institution that works less well for women than it does for men. The idea of a due process claim is pretty weak because what they're really saying is that a man has a right to stay married to someone over her objection. There is
Bingo.
no recognized support in the law for that kind of a concept. So I think what
Bingo.
they're frustrated with is this feeling that maybe women have too much autonomy and too much
Hello.
power, and that changing the divorce laws might be a way to pull that back. But I think there's really very little relation between the two.
Why do you think this focus from social conservatives on this now?
I think part of it is it gives some good talking points at a very abstract level, right? To suggest that the Republicans are in favor of traditional conservative values. They care about families, they care about children. And so they can use those sorts of claims about this, even though there's, as I have said, there's really not that much relationship. I also think it's part of the sort of culture wars that are, trying to bring back a more patriarchal society. I think most of the people who have advocated for repealing no fault in the current era are really interested in having men have more control again.
What would be the effects of getting rid of this, of repealing no fault? Who would be most affected? Who would be affected?
I mean, the most obvious effect would be on family courts, right? Which are already backlogged and dealing with high numbers of litigants who don't have lawyers. No fault makes divorce quicker and it makes it cheaper, in addition to what other effects it has. And so I think that in terms of individuals, the impact would be on people who, some people would be stuck in marriages as they were before the adoption.
Poor people would be stuck in marriages. Poor folk, working folk, regular folk would be stuck in marriages because that's what they want. They want you to be stuck in this marriage because they want to, again, preserve the family. You know, women are the ones who take away our rights as fathers, and if they force the women to stay married and not break up the family, then I wouldn't have to pay child support. Oh, girl, we gonna do a video about this child support thing, that rumor. That's funny as hell, but I'm not gonna digress. But anyhow, that's really what they think. Oh, we won't have to pay child support. The reason why they do this to us is because they allow women too much say. Yeah, that's really what this is about. But I just want to add this one thing, then we'll go back to the video and finish it up. But the law, the whole concept of women from 1969 to 2024 is entirely different from, it's different. Women are more educated now. Women have more money. They're making more money. Um, she can afford to get a divorce. A lot of women, as far as I'm observing, don't even want to get married in the first place unless they're lying to themselves and to everybody else. I don't know. But the whole population thing, the population is falling off, partly because women don't want to get married and they don't want to have children. That is an actual movement. The 4B movement is actually a movement. Italy is about to be, it's about to be no more. Japan is getting nervous. The United States, here in the States, in the Western world, the the birth rate is falling off. It's dropping. So let's not make any mistake in assuming what just happened that this has anything to do with anything other than forcing women to have children, because that's all it is. It's trying to chip away at the autonomy that you have today. That's all it is. And then we have to ask the question, because this was the question I'm supposed to ask, and I should have asked it in the opening. Is this the beginning of the Handmaid's Tale? Because that's what a lot of women are equating these laws to. Anyways, let's go on to the next video. I mean, not the next video. Let's continue with this video. Oh my God. I am so.
Adoption of no fault, but mostly people wouldn't be stuck. They would just have to pay more or jump through more hoops to get the divorce that they wanted. So I don't think it would have any impact on the average divorcing couple beyond cost and expense, and it would really backlog the family courts even more. The one thing we know historically is there's no relationship between how tough it is to get a divorce and whether a marriage is happy. So there's no reason to think that making divorce more difficult would somehow make marriages happier.
Joanna Grossman from SMU. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And so there you have it. You have, to borrow a term, you have seen that and you have heard that. Now we're going to jump on to what's happening in the present day. That was back in 2024 when we heard all the rumblings. And let me just say, this doesn't really have anything to do with Project 2025. Is that what it is? As long as I have been alive, and that's for quite a while, the conservatives have always had a problem with no fault divorce. Preachers have preached about it in the pulpit. This is nothing new. The Heritage Foundation has been writing and talking about this stuff since what, 40 years? 40 years now. So this is nothing new. They think and they assume that people are going to just roll over and take this. But the answer to the question and solution to the problem is, and we'll talk about that later, but let's go on to the next video here, because I really want to share this article with you. Is this the right article? Yes, this is the right article. So in this article, which is so funny, it's not funny. I don't mean like humorous funny. I mean like intriguingly funny, like odd, very interesting how these things are coming to pass. I remember talking to my husband. We were watching The Handmaid's Tale. Show. It got kind of silly after a while, but I did watch the television show. The first season I thought was dynamite. The first few episodes were dynamite. I was laughing with my husband and I said, "Oh," we were both laughing. And we said, "You know what? I don't think this could really happen in the United States." Now, the woman who wrote this was Canadian. So we're like, oh well, yeah, this probably what happened in Canada, but not in the that this really couldn't happen in the United States, and I still don't believe it can really happen in the United States. As you recall in the show, they only took over half the country. They couldn't take over all of the country, and they took over the most powerful part of the country, which was the East Coast, which is UK. So here we are like this 2025, and multiple states. That's the word I couldn't come up with. Covenant marriage. That's the word. They want you to sign this covenant marriage nonsense. Let's look at this. We're here in 2025, one day ago. And we can't be surprised because, like I said, red states do red state things. This whole matter started with, oh my God, what are you doing? Started with a conservative state. I'm sorry, I just started to trying to figure out why I got this weird stuff going on my computer. Okay. So it goes on to read this. Republicans have started to take action on their threats to get rid of no fault divorce as multiple red states file legislation to legalize and incentivize covenant marriages. What the hell is a covenant marriage? Currently, every state in the U.S. offers some form of no fault divorce option for individuals seeking to dissolve their marriage. However, only 17 states are considered true no fault divorce states, meaning no fault divorce is the only option for filing for divorce. The only one. I don't know what you're doing this for. Okay. I just messed up my camera. All right. The heck? I'm sorry. I'm getting this weird notification. Okay. So we know that no fault divorce simply for no, you don't have to prove that your spouse was, but these people want to bring back no fault divorce. So we know this is well known that women are far more likely to file for divorce than men because they are more likely to experience abuse, infidelity, and other harm in marriage. However, conservatives are concerned that it's too easy for women to get a divorce, and that's not fair to men. Why? Aren't women people? Aren't we entitled to be happy in marriage? Today, only 3 states in America, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Arizona, offer the option to covenant marriages. So far, only 3 states. That's good. Meanwhile, it has been decades since any state has officially passed covenant marriage acts, which is why it's alarming that these 3 states recently proposed covenant marriage bills in quick succession. Within days of Donald Trump winning re-election, Texas introduced a covenant marriage bill, with Missouri and Oklahoma following suit in early 2025. These laws want to allow individuals to enter into a covenant marriage. Now, I'm trying to understand, and I hope somebody challenges this nonsense in the courts, because what you talk about a covenant marriage. If I'm not a religious person and I'm not into religion, why would I want to be involved in a covenant marriage? I'm not under a covenant. That's a covenant between you, God, and the spouse. And if you're Christian, then yeah, if you want to enter into that kind of stuff, then you should be able to enter into that. But if you're not a Christian, how are you, the state, going to force me to enter into a covenant marriage when I'm not even under covenant? I'm not even proclaiming covenant. I'm not even thinking about religion in any kind of way. Isn't this against the separations of church and state? Isn't it against the Constitution where no one should uh uh you know promote religion? Covenant implies religion. And I don't know how you're going to put into a bill that women can't have a no fault divorce or men can't have a no fault. Either spouse can have a no fault divorce. It benefits both of them. So you're going to say that they can't have a no fault divorce because of what? Your religion? Your religion says it's wrong? Okay. What is a covenant marriage? Well, covenant marriage is a type of marriage in which an individual declares and signs written statements agreeing that marriage is a covenant. No, I'm not signing anything like that. I hope y'all aren't stupid enough to sign this. Unless you religious, then you do what you got to do. And it's meant to be for life. The only requirements is to enter a covenant marriage are to sign, state the declaration of intent, confirm they understand the Covenant Marriage Act, and agree to premarital counseling. Fuck you. Ooh, sorry. I better be careful. Getting out of a covenant marriage, though, is much more difficult because it gets rid of the option of no fault divorce. Can't you go to another state and get a no fault divorce? I don't know. I don't know how these things work. Okay. What did I say? Getting out of the covenant marriage, though, is much more difficult because it gets rid of the option of no fault divorce. In agreeing to a covenant marriage, the individuals also agree that they can only seek divorce in the case of abuse, abandonment, or adultery. All right. And who actually goes through this? You can see, and I'm not saying that men don't suffer from abuse in marriage, but the overwhelming majority are women. Women are the people who end up suffering abandonment, abuse, and adultery. For the most part. Not that men don't. I don't want y'all coming up here like, what about the women? Who do this and that, we know that they do. Because I got a big secret for the men who come on my channel and tell me, what about the women? Women are people. Come close. They're human beings. They have wants, needs, and desires. They could be effed up too. Just like you're bored with sex, they too can be bored with sex. I know. It's a mind blow, isn't it? It's not, except I think somebody's in here. Anywho, so they want you to sign this covenant marriage. You got to prove adultery, um, and abandonment and abuse. And see, the thing is, I was watching this preacher who was saying, well, if your husband talks to you a certain way, that's not abusive. That's just him being him. He actually said that on YouTube. Like, so they get to define what abuse is. They get to tell you what abuse is, how you are to be in your marriage. Meanwhile, the individual seeking the divorce must demonstrate a preponderance of the evidence that one of those three things occurred. The bills also have various other obstacles to divorce, such as requiring counseling first, or in Missouri's proposed bill, requiring a 2-year waiting separation period before divorce is granted. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the man's cheating and living with his 22-year-old girlfriend across town. Or the woman has already having a baby with somebody else. She don't even have to worry about divorce because, you're going to make her wait for 2 years. How does this stop unhappy marriages? How does this propagate unhappy How does this turn things around? Anywho, the TikTok user. Yeah. So this is how they're going to enforce these things, and they're going to target poor people because last time, 100 years ago, poor people didn't get married, but this is how they're going to target poor people. All right. So TikToker Pulse Pasta Politics described the dangers of covenant marriages, including warning that these lawmakers often, and this is in quotations for those of you listening, dangle tax credits in front of poor couples to bribe them into these marriages. However, they actually tend to financially hurt couples because these individuals are required to get premarital counseling and pay for it themselves. Of course. They're not going to give you anything. She states he needs to be leaving bruises all over your body, or you need to videotape. If it's a type of emotional, financial, or physical abuse, which is what the preacher was talking about, that doesn't leave much tangible evidence, though. One has to no way to source. Now, what are you doing? I'm not doing this. Uh, there's no way to source. But it is blah 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 blah. Sorry about that. And no one has no way to secure a divorce. In the comments, users notice that the bills sound like the start of The Handmaid's Tale. Well, yeah, The Handmaid's Tale was a little more insidious. Like, they got people busy working and doing things while bills were like, there were little aggressions, little disrespect. She's running and somebody bumps into her. A woman is replaced at the job with a man and he's disrespectful to the women. But again, these are not, I'm talking about the show now. These are not red flags. We know now that there is a bill coming in certain states, not all over, not yet, but it's out there. And once they start establishing these bills and they see that, oh, this could work, we can force women back into the home. They are underestimating the power of a woman who has her own money. That's why I guess in The Handmaid's Tale, they had to seize her bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. Listen, don't get married. Don't have their babies. Now, I don't know if the military is going to come in here and take 160 some odd women or 80 some. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, to turn things away. But that's extreme. That's a show. They are afraid. Let's not be fooled here. I'm sorry. The coffee's starting to hit me. Let's not be fooled here that, that population drop off is something that they're thinking about, that they're kicking around in their head. And they want to know what kind of preventative measures we can use to kind of trap women in the situation where she would have to give birth. I want to take you back. Well, I can't take you back because I can't put the video up. It's on Patreon. And it was about the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and how Project 2025 was against the Equal Rights Amendment, and how the Democrats really disappointed women because they could have offered us the protection under the Constitution. You may think you have protection under the Constitution, but you really don't. If you want to read that article, it's on my community tab, and the complete article is pinned in the comment section. You should go read that. And how the reason why the ERA wasn't passed, and it's a 100-year amendment for 100 years, it wasn't ratified, is because there's a teeny bit of information in which the opponents of the ERA believe that the woman's body belongs to the state. That's all I'm going to say. Go read the article. It's in the community tab. And Joe Biden, and I don't really want to talk about him, but he comes in there when he can't do nothing about adding the Equal Rights Amendment, covering women and preventing and protecting us, women and girls, and men too, from discrimination, sexual discrimination. 2 days when he can't do a damn thing about it. When he had 4 damn years to talk about it. And then you come up there and they march Kamala Harris over there, and she don't have no idea what's going on. She can't even come to you correct about the real protections that you need under the law. Because see, if you're protected under the Constitution, they can't make laws like this. It's difficult. It's difficult to make a law like this because you can't do it. They're not making laws about men's bodies. They're not making laws about, well, men ought to tie it up. You should really cover it up. They're not making those laws. This whole thing is about taking women's autonomy. You got too much choice. You talking too much. You too much. You going to college? I got to compete with you. How are you my boss? It's all about the patriarchal attitude. This is their last grasp at being relevant. I said this before on TikTok a while ago, and the men went epileptic. Oh my God. Ooh, what do you mean? This is our last gasp at being relevant. We are relevant. We are wanted. Okay, if you're so wanted, why is there a lonely man epidemic? Huh? That's why they want to tie women up to these marriages. I don't think it's any mistake that they have women uh desiring marriage, wanting marriage. I don't think it's any mistake that I don't want to put on my tinfoil hat. I'm just gonna I'm gonna let that pass. Anywho, let's go on. So yeah, so you have to approve, and any financial abuse or any emotional abuse which cannot be proved, they're going to say, well, you're not abused. You have to suck it up. He's just being a responsible man. Yeah, he took your money and he spent it on this, that, and the other thing. That's his job as head of the household to take care of this situation. You're not being abused. And the article closes with this: the goal of these bills is not to promote healthy marriages, but to force women to remain in their marriages for life. As a way to control them. Of course, we just talked about this. These bills promote tax credits or invoke religion to pressure unsuspecting young women into the marriages to take away their option of divorce. Further covenant marriage acts could follow. However, they're not the only bills targeting women. Since Trump won the election, numerous Republican lawmakers have been emboldened, which is why I don't know what is going on with you. Why are you doing this? Which is why we're seeing a flurry of bills introduced by the Republican men that relate to women. In addition to the covenant marriages, Republicans are also pushing to force victims of, the R word and incest, seeking to terminate their pregnancies, to sign affidavits under penalties of perjury, to mail penalties of perjury. This is getting on my nerves. I don't know why he's jumping around like that. Penalties of perjury and to revolutionize women's health care to prioritize the needs of the men. What does the men have to do with it? Combined, these bills certainly could be the start of the Handmaid's Tale in America. That's what I know I sound a bit fussy, and I apologize for that. But look, I don't understand why I'm the one who's got to carry the baby for 9 months, but you get to make a decision. See, that's why that Equal Rights Amendment was important to be added to the Constitution. They got women fooled. They got us thinking we got rights. We don't. I'm just saying, y'all need to be very mindful of what's going on and guard yourself. Guard your peace. Guard your life. Granted, this is in red states. And like I said before, red states are doing red state things. I don't believe that this will prevail as long as somebody is willing to fight for it, but you have to be willing to fight for it. And as long as they have women under the delusion that, this doesn't affect them in any way, black women in particular, because they want your ass to be more married and have more babies than anybody. But y'all go ahead. Do you, girl? I'm just trying to tell you that, as long as you are under the impression that you have or you are protected, they will continue to make these laws. That's why they didn't want the ERA to be part of the amendment, the 28th Amendment. They don't want it because it would prevent men from making laws about your body. I said this before. I say it again. I'm sounding like a broken record. I understand. But I want to impress upon you just how important it is to pay attention to what's going on regarding women. Those lonely man stories, those oh poor little men, they just can't barely make it. I'm not making fun of people who have real emotional issues. I know what it's like to have real emotional issues. Please go get help. But to sit here and to try to manipulate women's emotions so that they can be induced to have babies to save what? To save what men have done, how they've overspent on wars and rumors of wars. Anyways, what do you think? I don't know if this is the Handmaid's Tale. I think we have a little more autonomy. So far, it's a few states, but I think we need to be aware of why the ERA is important, and we need to join the fight for that because having the being protected under the Constitution helps us when it comes to legislation. A lot of what's being put out is probably going to go to court. It's not, it's out there, but a lot of it's going to go to court because some of it against the Constitution, anyways. But you know, it is what it is. Some of it I agree with. You know, not everything that he's writing is a bad thing, but when it comes to women, he has the ear of the conservatives, and the conservatives have been playing this game for a long time, and they keep lulling women into believing things that aren't true. And that's all I'm going to say because I can't afford any more warnings from YouTube. But anyhow, tell me what you think in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. I hope you really do like and share and subscribe and spread the message. It's a clumsy message, I'm sure, but I think it's important that y'all get this message out here that what y'all need to be on guard and you need to be paying attention and you need to gather your emotions together and start taking responsibility for your own lives because this all right, I don't want to fuss anymore. It's already too long. All right. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.